Thank you all. Let me begin by appreciating the invitation, Minister Barrot, to the Weimar format meeting. And to Ministers Wadeful and Sikorsky, let me thank you for the pleasure of your company, your time, your views. I think we had really short but very deep and very open discussions on a range of issues today. Before we did that, earlier in the afternoon, Minister Barrot and I spent some time discussing our bilateral relationship. France is our earliest strategic partner in Europe. I think the quality of our ties is something very special. So we discussed our bilateral cooperation, global issues. We hope to welcome President Macron in India soon. So I had a good day even before the Weimar format meeting. Now, where India is concerned, this is the first time that we are engaging in this format. And our discussions were largely centered on three issues: India-European Union relations, the Indo-Pacific, and the Ukraine conflict. One context for doing so is the deepening engagement that we have with Europe. It is reflected in a collective endeavor with Brussels, but it is also sustained by efforts from individual European member states. As these conversations advance and cooperation deepens, it is natural that we have smaller group interactions that support this larger direction, and I think that is what we see today. A second context is, of course, a world that is under churn. We have been witnessing for quite some years now that churn in the Indo-Pacific. Europe is going through its own challenging circumstances, many of which have strategic implications. But beyond that, there have also been overarching developments that could redefine the global order itself. We may be located in different parts of the world, but despite that, perhaps even because of that, it is extremely useful for us to exchange views regularly and to share assessments. Among India's major relationships, I believe that the one with the European Union and Europe, and obviously with its member states, has the most room to grow today. We have tremendous unrealized potential and many new areas to explore. It is appropriate that this format, which has brought us together, has three very important European partners. My discussions today leave me confident that they will support that effort to take India-Europe ties to the next level. At the end of the day, the world is moving in a multipolar direction. Factors and events that make it more volatile and uncertain also make a very powerful argument for deeper collaboration among those who are like-minded, those who have convergence, and those who have shared views. That is the exercise that has brought us together. And let me conclude once again by thanking my colleagues for what was a very, very useful evening.
Thank you. I'm from AFP. Question to Minister Barrot. This morning, you talked about a response plan in the face of U.S. intimidation, and I was wondering whether you discussed that this afternoon with your counterparts. And a question to all of you as well, more specifically on that U.S. intimidation to Greenland. What can you offer Greenland to support its security and safeguard it? What can you, as the Weimar Triangle, bring to the EU and to other members of the EU? Thank you. I have a question for Minister Wadeful. How can NATO respond given that its most important and most
Ist die
powerful
NATO dann am Ende
member,
und
the
ist der
United
Verkauf
States, is
Grönlands
taking
an
action
die
against
USA
a
überhaupt
member, Denmark? Is that the
eine
end of
Option?
NATO?
Und bitte eine Frage an Herrn Sikorski.
The sale of
Der
Greenland to
Kanzler
the
Merz
US, could that
hat
be an option? And a
angekündigt, dass
question to
als
Mr.
Sicherheitsgarantie
Sikorski, the
deutsche
federal chancellor,
Soldaten an die
said
Ukraine
that
grenzende NATO-Länder
security
stationiert werden
guarantees,
können.
that as security guarantees,
Würde Polen das
German
befürworten, dass
troops
deutsche
could be deployed
Soldaten in
on
Polen stationiert
NATO
werden in so einem
territory
Fall?
on
Danke.
the border with Ukraine? Could that be the case in Poland?
Thank you. Maybe one last question so that we have everyone together over there.
So this is Rohini from DD India. So you choose Europe as your first visit in 2026. So what role do you see for Europe in our foreign policy?
Et je répondrai à la dernière question en disant que nous sommes très honorés.
And to answer the
que
last
le
question,
Dr.
I'd like
Jaishankar
to
ait
say
effectivement
that we're
choisi
very
l'Europe et
honored
la
that
France
Dr. Jaishankar
pour
chose
commencer cette
Europe and
année
indeed
diplomatique
France to kick off
2026.
this diplomatic
Ensuite, s'agissant
year 2026.
des travaux en cours
And
au Quai d'Orsay, ils n'ont
now,
pas
when it
commencé
comes
hier, en réalité, ils n'ont pas
to
commencé avant-hier, mais
work
bien
in
avant.
progress
Simplement,
at
ce
the
que
Quai
j'ai
d'Orsay,
dit
of
ce
course,
matin, c'est que
our work didn't
nous
start
avons,
today or yesterday. But
évidemment
what I said this morning
engagé
was that
des réflexions sur la manière
indeed
dont
we have
nous
started
pourrons défendre nos intérêts
thinking
si,
about
toutefois, ils étaient
how
menacés,
we
si toutefois la
might
France,
defend our
l'Union
interests
européenne,
if
devait
our
faire
interests
l'objet
came to be
d'intimidations,
threatened
d'où
and
qu'elles viennent.
if France and the EU were to be intimidated, wherever that intimidation might stem from. And that is something I mentioned to my Polish and German partners, and indeed that we will bring to our European partners, because that is the question being raised. How can Europe, how can the EU deter from any form of threat to its security or its interests? So there's nothing new about that, in a sense. And then when it comes to Greenland specifically, again, I don't want to repeat myself. And the President of the Republic himself went there in June of last year. I went in August to reaffirm our support to the Danish and Greenlandic authorities. And we announced the opening of a consulate as well in Greenland. And as the Danish Prime Minister said, Greenland is not for sale. Greenland is not for the taking. Long gone are the times where you could buy or sell Louisiana. And Denmark can count on the solidarity of European countries. The heads of state and government said so in a shared statement yesterday.
Ja, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, Sie kennen die Erklärung das gemeinsame Statement der 7 europäischen Staaten.
You are familiar with the
die Grönland
common statement issued
vollkommen klar
by European states on Greenland.
die Grönländerinnen und Grönländer und das Königreich
It is
Dänemark
clear that it falls to Greenlanders to determine their own fate, as well as to the Kingdom of Denmark.
Souveränität, der territorialen Integrität und
Of course,
der Unverletzlichkeit der Grenzen.
in keeping with the principles of the UN Charter, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders.
Und dazu gibt es auch die jederzeitige Bereitschaft, das offene im Bündnis.
And all of these aspects of the article need to be discussed within the NATO Council. And I'm pleased that our counterpart, Marco Rubio, announced his wish to discuss this with the Danish government. That would be very useful. NATO is the most important military alliance in the world, and 2025 was an important year, the most important year for NATO, with the enlargement of NATO. Finland, Sweden joined NATO. Second, we also celebrated the most successful NATO summit in a long time in The Hague, where we decided
Das ist eine klare, auch
to
Erwartung
commit
der
up to 5% of EU countries' GDPs to the military.
hat von Anfang an deutlich
And
gemacht,
this was something that President Trump wanted to see from Germany as well. And the federal government said from the very beginning that it was prepared to do more
in dem Gipfel
to increase military spending. And that summit was highly successful. During that summit, we all reiterated our attachment to Article 5, as did the United States yet again. And I'd like to say that President Trump stated very clearly that he believed in NATO, that the US supported the military alliance and an alliance with Europe. And we believe in the future of the alliance, and I have no doubt that we shall cooperate very closely and that our alliance will be what it always has been, the best military alliance in the world.
Zgadzam się z kolegami. Premier Polski Donald Tusk podpisał deklarację, która już została wspomniana.
I agree. The Prime Minister Donald Tusk signed the statement that was just mentioned. And I would just add on issues of land, peace, and war. These issues are in the purview of the US Congress, and I would like to know the point of view of Congress on Greenland. A question was asked of me on the presence of German troops in Poland.
Mojego kraju w Sojuszu Północnoatlantyckim, w Korpusie Północno-Zachodnim w Szczecinie.
And I would like to remind you that we had German troops in Stettin, and that predates our NATO accession, as well as in Bydgoszcz, my town. And recently we organized military exercises in Poland, and it was actually a German general commanding Polish tanks. And the reverse occurred as well. We're very grateful to Germany for the presence of German troops in Rzeszów, at the Jaishankar airfield, and they participated in the anti-air defense of that airfield, which is very important in the context of support to Ukraine. Now, I won't go into detail, but if we have a ceasefire and if we have a monitoring operation, well, in that case, a number of countries have already stated that they would be a part of preparatory action in Poland. France is among them. But this is something we will be discussing with our chiefs of staff. But it would not be new when it comes to Germany.
Thank you. Let me just respond to the last question, which was, in a sense, you asked me, why did I come to Europe? I think it was a very conscious choice. It was a choice which reflected our belief that this relationship with Europe is really poised to grow to the next level. And when I look back, even at the last few weeks, we've had discussions within India on matters dealing with Europe, the FTA, technology issues, semiconductors, railways, defense, aviation, railways. So it's a very substantive relationship, much more that can be done. But other than that, I think there is a larger discussion today that the world needs about the global order. What kind of world do we want to live in? What would be the norms and the other related issues? And because I think Europe is such an important player in global politics, it's also necessary that India strengthen its relationship. I think we can bring more stability both into the international economy and global politics. And that really is why I'm here. I should add, by the way, as soon as I get back, that we would be expecting to welcome Chancellor Merz in India. And as I said, soon President Macron will be there. A number of other European leaders are also slated to visit India very shortly.